Yes, and hello once again. I am Max Ratt, and welcome to the Max Ratt Deconstruction Zone. So it's Thursday, March 28th. It's really Wednesday night after midnight, but we can call it March 28th. Anyway, so I got another show for you this evening. This show is going to be called The Significance of the Cyprus Situation. The Significance of the Cyprus Situation. And I kind of been trying to tune into the Cyprus situation because I think it does have significance. And on that note, let's rock the show. I'm Max Ratt, live from the Rat Hole in New York City. Welcome aboard the Deconstruction Zone, and I'm going to try to deconstruct this Cyprus situation and tell you what significance it has to me and to us, or how I think it goes. So welcome aboard. I'm Max Ratt. Here we go. So so the first clip is going to be from this guy Ali something. These are clips from the news conference that the ECB, that the Troika basically presented when they made their agreement with the Cypriot government to do this bailout situation for a couple of Cypriot banks. I don't want to have to go into whole telling you the whole story. That you can look that up yourself. I'm going to tell you what my take on it is. So here we go. So here's Ali. He has such a weird accent, and you'll see what I mean by that. I'm not even sure if he was Russian or German. I think he's German. Ali. His name's Ali. Anyway, here he goes. He's going to talk to you about the. This is a distract. Well, this is an interesting little clip because he talks about he gives you two Beatles quotes in a row, and then whatever that's just to kind of to start the distraction going while you before you even know what hits you. So here we go.
It's been yet another hot day's night. I'm not saying a long and winding road.
It's been a hard day's night, not a long and winding road. If you know what I'm saying, you like that? And then I'll give you some Beatles on that one. Let
me tell you how it will be. There's one for you, 19 for me. 'Cause I'm the tax man. Yeah, I'm the tax man.
Yeah, and this EU and combined with our criminal government and our banking cabal with the Federal Reserve, they're the taxmen, folks. Okay, let's keep it going. So now on CNBC, while all this is going down, they're trying to tell you, you know what, everything's great. Don't worry about it.
I would rather be looking at the 5-year low in unemployment claims that we had, and 2 weeks ago the 5-year high in consumer net worth, and the fact that the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the Wilshire 5000 have been at new highs, and the fact that housing is very strong, and that autos are very strong, and the banking system has healed measurably. So there's a lot of good things out there.
Yeah, everything's fine. So there's nothing. So if that's the case, you might as well just turn the show off right now because you know what? I want to take a quote from somebody. This is not what I want to happen, okay? What I'm trying to describe to people is not what I would like to happen. I certainly by no means want a financial collapse, and I don't want to have our country to go to war again or whatever. I don't want anything bad to happen. I actually wish for the best, and I'm an optimist. However, it's not what I want to happen. This is what I expect to happen, and I stole that from somebody I heard say it, but there you go. I don't want this to happen. I'm expecting this to happen, so let's keep it going.
Well, what's happening is that a handful of rich elites around the world are continuing to steal everything from everybody else. And the middle class in every country is disappearing, and the lower class is being pushed lower. And everyone pretends there's some kind of recovery and there's going to be a happy tomorrow and all that sort of thing.
Keep it going.
They're not reporting anything regarding the sacredness of segregated accounts. We are getting into a middle stage of implosion where I believe the public will not wake up until at least 1 million private accounts are stolen and vanish.
Yeah, no, that's the guy predicting. That's Jim Willey predicting that for America. But what this whole so starting with Cyprus, this whole story is about stealing money or taking money or just stealing money out of private bank accounts, whether they're supposedly insured or not. I think I'm going to get into that. It's not really the issue here. It's whether or not it's whether or not your money is safe in a bank, and we're going to get into that too as we go. Let's just keep it moving.
Resistors to mind reprogramming will be exterminated for the good of the state.
There you go. So, that's right. So, that means if you listen, be careful if you're listening to my show, if you're resisting mind reprogramming.
And this has been the story since 2007, 2008, when this global financial crisis first hit. There's all the central banks, all the policymakers, Barack Obama, David Cameron, all the world leaders have bent over backwards to protect the bondholders by imposing all kinds of bailout schemes, restructuring schemes, quantitative easing schemes to protect bondholders. Now they're just stealing money from depositors to pay bondholders. Going back 60, 70 years, isn't this fascism?
Or some sort of a
there is no
control
America.
of the government.
There is no democracy. There is only IBM and ITT.
Let me start that one again, because he said there is no America.
There is no America. There is no democracy. There is only IBM and ITT and AT&T and DuPont, Dow, Union Carbide, and Exxon. Those are the nations of the world today.
That was from a 1975 movie called Network. Lots of freaky prophesizing in that movie. Keep it going.
Now, if you've been paying attention over the past couple of years, you've probably noticed that Cyprus was just the latest of a series of flare-ups in the Eurozone. The entire economic bloc is plagued by a sovereign debt crisis, which was compounded by credit default swaps, derivatives, and accounting tricks designed to bypass EU deficit rules. The solution that keeps being offered to each of these flare-ups comes down to bailouts for the banks, with the citizens footing the bill. Now, of course, these bailouts are not free money, they are loans. To simplify it, Europe is trying to patch up a debt problem with more debt. Obviously, that's not going to work. What would work would be to follow Iceland's example by nullifying the debt and pressing criminal charges on the bankers. Iceland is already recovering right now. Unfortunately, this isn't going to happen unless enough people wake up. If we don't wake enough people up, the story unfolding in front of us is pretty grim.
Nullify the debt and press criminal charges on the banksters. Okay, I'll tell you what.
Shut up, slave!
Yeah, that's what they're going to tell me if people okay, but I'll say it again. Nullify the debt and press criminal charges on the people who were basically, through fraudulent practices and actions, we're stealing money. Steve, this is not honest business, folks. This is not. Okay, and we can go into that. That's another show. Money is these. So there's certain people who are like, and you know who they and the little people always seem to be convinced by TV that oh no, that we're taking from the rich people, we're taxing the rich, or we're your little mini bank accounts are protected, but we're like by some government guarantee. That's not a guarantee, by the way. Anyway, but even if it was, and you're protected, but we're just so don't worry about it, because those are the masses of people, and if they, but so and the little people are still too stupid to understand that they are being robbed anyway. They're just not, but because somebody told you you're not being robbed, then you believe them. The rich have a different problem. They seem to think they're all in on it, and it seems to me like, well, if you're lucky enough to be anointed in on it, or you're in the group of people who are doing the stealing, then I guess maybe you feel like, okay, I'd rather be on the stealing, on the cheating side than the side of getting fucked or getting screwed or getting cheated. And I guess that's not the worst way to. I mean, I still think that you better do the right thing either way, because there's going to be a day of reckoning, and it won't be with somebody who's going to buy your. I wanted to, I figure I'll go with the good guys, or with the guys who I'd rather be the stealer than the stealee. You know, I mean, I'm not sure how that's going to work out in the end. So anyway, so here's the next clip. It's Paul Craig Roberts again, who always makes some very good points, and I always use clips from him. Well, I use many clips from him on my show.
What is going on, in my opinion, is that the European Union, the bureaucracy that comprises the EU, is using the crisis to subvert the independence of the individual sovereign states that make up the EU. So the real villain here is the EU bureaucracy in Brussels and the European Central Bank, which is in line with them, and they're making a power play to simply take over the budgets and the authoritative economic decisions of the individual countries.
And the banks in our country are doing the same, by the way. So don't think it's just their problem. But yes, and this is all leading towards, again, it sure does seem to me like everything's leading towards this international global financial governance model. Sure, and the way that's going to work is that, we just get to steal from you whatever we want, and you bend over and take it like a fucking stupid slave. Okay, I'm sorry to be so crude and about the way I'm saying it, but you know what though, it sure does seem to me like that. And let me say one more thing: is that I've led a relatively blessed and relatively privileged life. I've always had nice things, and I live in New York City, in a nice place. But I don't think that you need to steal. But I know people who've worked very hard and made a good living, and they deserve just, if they want to blow their money on this or spend it on that or some whatever. I think that freedom means you should do whatever you want. But I don't believe that you need to steal from people to achieve, or steal honest people's pensions that they worked their whole goddamn lives for, okay, which is exactly what's going on here, and that's why I'm speaking out against this, and that's why I know this system can't possibly work, because if the people who were getting their pensions and then savings stolen really understood how it's going down, I don't think any of them would be terribly down with it, okay? So there's a very big theft and deception going on. A lot of it's because people are propagandized by television and other things and everywhere they look, but and the movies and the media in general. The media is complicit in this. The same people who are robbing everybody and trying to indenture you as slaves are the ones who own the media. So work it out for yourself. If you think that there's and you know what, a lot of people, I'm not sure, including my best friend who even was chatting with tonight, I'm not sure, you know, I think that they would rather not believe that that's the way people are getting done, but you know what? I'm sorry, but that's the way it looks. That sure does the way it looks to me. So now this guy's going to introduce these members of the Troika, which is Christine Lagarde, this guy Ali, and this guy Klaus, who's like anyway, it's just funny the way he introduces them.
We'll now give the floor to Ollie and Christine and Klaus.
Yeah, we're going to give the floor to Ali, Christine, and Klaus. If you will.
We'll now give the floor to Ollie and Christine and Klaus.
Ollie, Christine, and Klaus. And okay, so now there's this guy named Dusselbloom. He's a Dutch guy who's in charge of this European stability mechanism, which is the same thing as going to be our which is an arm of the Troika, which is the liquidation arm, if you will, of the Troika. Okay, which the Troika is the European Commission, the ECB, the European Central Bank, and I'm at a loss for words, but and the IMF. Okay, there you go. That's Christine Lagarde. So. The IMF is, their offices are in Washington, D.C., so don't think that the Americans don't have a arm in there, too. It works both ways. They're all interconnected. So anyway, Ali, Christine, and Klaus.
We'll now give the floor to Ollie and Christine and Klaus.
Okay, so then I was watching CNBC with Larry Kudlow, and this guy, his title is the guy from CFR, okay, the Council on Foreign Relations, which is a criminal organization that sets policy for all the United States government stuff, okay? I mean, and there's clips. You can go look on YouTube with Hillary kissing, like on her knees, kissing the CFR guy's ass. Richard Haas, he's on CNBC. He's on NBC too. Sometimes I've seen him. Anyway, they're the ones who are setting policy or write policy. They're the administrative arm of the west of the American sect of the New World Order, I guess you might say. But I don't want to get too. I want to stay let's see focused on this. Let's listen to what the CFR guy says.
I think the template that they made last week, which they're trying to undo now, was disastrous. That is hitting the insured depositors.
Okay, so they're gonna. You see again. Okay, so what they're doing there is that's to just because the majority of people who are watching CNBC or anything are not usually. I would say the majority have less than 100,000 euros or dollars in most banks. Okay, I mean that's just. That's because that's a lot of money. I'm sure there's plenty of people who have more, but that's not. But anyway, so the majority of people who are watching, or people have 401ks. Sometimes they have more than that. I mean, I probably underestimated that. But anyway, he doesn't want anybody to get the idea that there's going to be a bank run. So he's telling you that. There you go.
I think the template that they made last week, which they're trying to undo now, was disastrous. That is hitting the insured depositors.
Right, so they don't want anybody to get too cold feet because they're going to steal your money cold when you're not looking. So they're going to tell you, well, you know what, the insured depositors, that was a mistake, but that wasn't a mistake. These people don't make mistakes. These things are all planned well ahead of time. So somebody came up with the idea. Well, let's throw it out there and then take it back. But that'll make it that'll just loosen them up a little bit for when we really do it. Okay, that's my take on that. Now here's Dusselblom. Talking about the same thing. He was the head of this press conference with where they have fake questions being asked from people with weird accents, and it's just a fucking theatrical, nonsensical show. But there's a lot of this is a presentation to the people who are following the financial news. So they schmaltz it up real good for them. Here you go.
We had actually hoped to help the Cypriot government to reach an agreement in Parliament by allowing for a levy also under 100,000. Of course, the outside world reacted very negatively to that kind of levy, to that particular group of depositors.
Right. So he said, well, we originally recommended or something, or allowed. He said allowed the Cypriot banks to. He allowed a levy on their bank accounts, but then he said the people reacted badly, so he took it away. Again, this is all scripted nonsense, okay? Can we keep it going?
We've talked about this bailout package for Cyprus totaling around 17 billion euros.
Okay, 17 billion euros. That is 1 million people in Cyprus, so we're talking about a bailout or they're calling it a bail-in, just to confuse you again. We'll get into that, but 17 billion euros. I mean, if you go by the Cypriot population, even though I'm not saying that they're going to stick the Cypriot people like they do with the bond situations and bonds. This is not a bond situation. Okay, these are Cypriot banks that went bust, but they're saying because they have all the deposits of the Cypriot people's money, that the Cypriot people are now going to have to bail them out because they should have known better than you should have deposited in my bank, man. You should have known better. I'm insolvent. So that's going to be another discussion we have on this whole Cypriot thing. So so 17 billion euros is just for the record, and that's not what the minimum they owe. That's the amount they want to lend them, or say 13 billion, whatever it is. It's 1 million people in Cyprus, so that's €17,000 per person, man, woman, and child. Or if you want to say that the bailout was 13 billion, then and that's money that's loaned. Okay, it's not a loan. It's not a friggin' gift, okay, which I hope people understand, okay. So they're going to put more debt on top of debt to bail out debt, which is like what the guy said in the earlier clip. But here we go. Let's keep it going.
Couldn't this spread to Europe? And what about U.S. banks? I mean, we have $10.8 trillion in deposits. I just checked this with the FDIC. $10.8 trillion in deposits, $33 billion in the insurance fund. And of course, they have a $100 billion line of credit to the Treasury, but $10.8 trillion in deposits in U.S. banks, $33 billion in insurance.
Yeah, and of course, the money they do have, the $33 billion, if indeed it's that much, I thought it was a little lighter than that, but all of that is in U.S. Treasuries, so they'd have to sell those Treasuries, and in order to tap their line of credit to the Treasury is tapped out itself. So the Treasury is going to have to sell bonds in order to give money to the FDIC. So in other words, we would have to have a massive bailout in the event that we had major banking failures here in the United States.
Yeah, and that's kind of deceptive in a way because $11 trillion. I mean, the FDIC only promises to cover 250,000, or I'm not sure. I think it might have went up to 500,000. Correct? Check it for me if you can. 250,000 or 500,000 versus deposits anyway. But this is not just about like secured deposits, okay? That's not your problem, okay? And that is something that leads to these type of situations because if the bank is like, oh, the FDIC's got our back, and the depositor's like, I don't have to check the solvency or care about the solvency of my bank because I'm under the assumption that the government's going to cover it or it's safe. Then again, I don't want to say I think it should be safe, okay? But the and that's another problem. So in other words, you can't because like what would you need to put your money in a bank for if it wasn't safe? I mean that's why you put it in the bank because you always felt like that's the safest place to keep it, right? But so now they're kind of like jumbling even up the vision or they're blurring the idea that even your bank, well, your bank's not safe. You should have known better that to put your money in a bank. They make it sound like you lent it on the street to a crackhead or something like that. Okay, I mean, and but the way that they actually present it to you is almost like that's who has your money is somebody who's totally unreliable. Okay, somebody who's got 11 trillion in deposits, only 38 billion in their bank account to cover them. So there's a lot, and frankly, even though like I'm using these clips and I'm trying to find clips of people who are relatively truthful and relatively good and usually good explaining what they're explaining, whether or not it's truthful or not, but you still have to understand that anybody in the mainstream media that I can even find has got spin on all over things. Now, sometimes it might be spin just to promote their own business that they have, which is, not the worst possible thing in the world. But there's all kinds of other spins, and I don't believe they let anybody even go on TV if they didn't follow some of those rules. Anyway, there's 11 trillion in deposits. That sounds like a very I mean, I'm not sure if that's what everybody's idea of what a deposit is number, but and there's 38 billion at the FDIC, and Peter Schiff is telling you if that because it's really all fake. All they're going to do is when you tell them how much do you need, they're going to just make it up and inflate it or monetize that debt through a money printing or money inflating technique that basically just robs you of the value of your money anyway. And why does a guy like Peter Schiff tell you that? Because he's in the gold business. So again, and do I think that gold is a good investment? Yes, and that's another show and a lot more explaining. But so what I'm saying is like I'm trying to really deconstruct everything and try to figure out, well, what shred of truth can I take from this and shred of truth I can take from that, and not to say that the people who like Peter Schiff and like Max Kaiser and sometimes and even Alex Jones don't get or give you an honest answer every once in a while. They do, or more than once in a while, and even Paul Craig Roberts, who I think I use a lot of his clips in my show because I think that he sounds right on them. Even then, when you went back to Ron Paul, the same thing. But but still, frankly, folks, a lot of it is is and I'm not just saying that because I'm a hater, because I want it to be like that, but just a lot of it is very subtle and very cleverly organized deception, and that's what this show is all about. And let's keep it going from there. Peter Schiff said and Greg Hunter, the guy who was interviewing him, said 11 trillion, and Peter Schiff said, yeah, but let me play that one again, even though, because I yapped too long for that, and I'm going to keep it. Let me get my focus here.
Couldn't this spread to Europe? And what about U.S. banks? I mean, we have 10.8 trillion in deposits. I just checked this with the FDIC. 10.8 trillion in deposits, 33 billion in the insurance fund. And of course, they have a $100 billion line of credit to the Treasury, but 10.8 trillion in deposits in U.S. banks, 33 billion in insurance.
Yeah, and of course, the money they do have, the 33 billion, if indeed it's that much, I thought it was a little lighter than that, but all of that is in U.S. Treasuries, so they'd have to sell those Treasuries, and in order to tap their line of credit to the Treasury...
And if they sell the Treasuries, then the bonds collapse, obviously, but, they're just saying that the FDIC can't bail you out if you wanted to anyway, okay? So he's trying to say that, buyer beware in that regard, which is true too, but like I said before, I mean, this is the first most Americans are hearing that their bank account is, if your bank account's gone tomorrow, sorry, don't tell you I didn't tell you so. That's basically what they're telling you here, and I think that's relative news to most people. So now this guy from the Troika interview press conference says, he starts talking about the orderly. I'm like, where did I hear orderly before so much? And it was sure enough, it was last show where Bernanke was talking about the orderly liquidation authority. So what I'm trying to show you here is that there's a very, very close. Well, it's not. I wouldn't even call it a similarity. I would call it its connection. There is a connection, not close. There's a connection between this European banking representative or high-level representative, and like what Bernanke says, who's the American high-level banking representative, and they're all working the same angles, and that means that they're all in together, obviously, but more than just, very in together, to the point that their scripts are coming from the same house, and that's something that, if you trust these guys implicitly after all this been through, then fine. But I'm saying that these people are in together. And if you believe, like I believe, that these people there's enough evidence to understand that they're total lying criminals. And I'm saying, well, now we got a bunch of lying criminals all lying I'm working on the same side, obviously, and that's something that we should be aware of. Here's Dusselblum from the Troika talking about orderly resolutions.
The solution that we've been able to reach tonight actually focuses on the banks that are in trouble already, and most of all the Laiki Bank, which is simply cannot be saved. And having said that, we have to make sure that it doesn't go into a disorderly situation. We have to make sure that it becomes an orderly resolution process.
Right, so he's saying we need an orderly resolution process. Bernanke, I'm going to show you the next clip where he talks about the orderly liquidation, and he says, Laiki Bank can't be saved, sorry. And so that's going to be, what we're going to do is substitute an American bank in, and then if you're in France, you'll substitute a French bank in there, and if you're in Portugal, you'll substitute the name of a Portuguese bank or Italian bank, for that matter, in there, and it's all going to be the same. We need an order. You can't have it disorderly. Disorderly means like they just go bankrupt, like the old days. This orderly means we have to we steal all the money from the bank, and then tell you, don't step back, nothing to see here. We have to keep order here, orderly, and that word has a connection to police state, as far as I'm concerned, too. So anyway, he says orderly. The
solution that we've been able to reach tonight actually focuses on the banks that are in trouble already, and most of all the Laiki Bank, which is simply cannot be saved. And having said that, we have to make sure that it doesn't go into a disorderly situation. We have to make sure that it becomes an orderly resolution process.
Right, so no disorderly, got to be orderly, okay? And here's Bernanke from last week. Well, it's been a few weeks now, but less than a month ago.
Well, an orderly liquidation authority, as you mentioned, the FDIC, which is leading this effort, has been working with European counterparts. They published a paper with the UK authorities, I believe it was a few months ago. The Fed has been working very closely with the FDIC. Recently, for example, I attended a tabletop exercise where we pretended that there was a bank failing and asked ourselves what we would do under...
Pretended, though, but that just happened in Cyprus, which is a tiny place. Again, this is all conditioning, and and we'll see. This is a red herring. We'll throw it out there and see how it goes, see how the people digest it. Most people won't pay attention. There's people who do pay attention. We'll tell them this to deceive them another way, get them going down the wrong path, and let's keep it going. But he did say with his European buddies or something, keep going.
The laws that the Orderly Liquidation Authority provides. The Financial Stability Board, which is an international body of...
like I told you, Dusselblum is coming from the European Stability Mechanism. He's like the Financial Stability Board. Do I know if that's the same thing? I didn't even bother to look it up. He might, because if it isn't a different one, it's the same thing anyway. But if it isn't, if it is, then he'll just say, "Well, I that's what I meant." Keep it going.
Regulators and other international bodies like the Basel Committee and so on have been discussing the issues related to international banks and how they might be liquidated in a crisis.
In an orderly way, orderly again. That's what he just said. We're orderly liquidating Cyprus, the Laiki Bank. Okay, now he's orderly liquidating again. Keep it going.
So this solution we have reached tonight doesn't have the downsides that the solution of last week did. That's quite obvious. And this solution tonight deals with the core of the problems that are now on the table, which have only increased over the last weeks. So once again, the instruments that we're choosing now could have been chosen a week ago, but they couldn't have been chosen a week ago because there simply wasn't a political possibility to reach that agreement. So within the political possibilities last week, we chose different instruments, and now we have the better solution in worse circumstances. I'm sorry to say.
And that's Dusselblum again. That's one of those, just like, if you were in a bar and you said that to somebody, they'd smack you in your fucking head. Okay, right? But he's sitting there like you should. He's sitting there just telling you. That's basically...
Shut up, slave!
What is going on, in my
It's basically
opinion.
one of those, is a shut up slave, okay? Let me play it again.
Shut up, slave!
Yeah, so, okay, so, we have a better solution, we switched solutions, and now back to the orderly liquidation.
There's a three-part plan under Dodd-Frank. Part number one is to impose costs on large institutions that offset the benefits they get in the funding markets. For example, capital surcharges, activity restrictions, liquidity requirements, living wills, a whole bunch of other things that impose greater cost and force the largest firms to take into account their systemic footprint. That's number one. Number two is the Orderly Liquidation Authority, which we're working closely with the FDIC and with our foreign counterparts to figure out how we would take down a large institution without bringing down the system. And part three is a whole raft of measures to try to strengthen the overall financial system so that it would be more credible that we could take down a large institution without bringing down the system. That's sort of the three-part plan. It's working to some extent.
Take down a large institution without taking down the system, okay? So Laiki Bank that's just a test. It's a test model for this, okay? But it's so not the same, okay? Because Laiki Bank was not too big to fail. I mean, although I promise you that we don't know the extent of the losses when it comes to like whoever had their money in those banks. But again, I guarantee you it's small compared to a too big to fail scenario in the United States. But what they're telling you, what all this is preparation and conditioning.
For example, even though U.S. banks are stronger financially than European banks, frequently U.S. banks have wider credit default swap spreads indicating a higher probability of actual failure because the differences between the U.S. and Europe in terms of government perceived support. So that's the process. That's the plan.
That's the process and the plan is that American banks have even higher likelihood of failure than he was saying, than he was relating to the European banks. That's Bernanke himself from the, and I'm sorry, but if you want to rewind and listen to it again, I want to keep the show moving, but but listen to that, what he just said. That was your man, Bernanke right there. Okay. Too big anyway, so let's keep going. Here's Paul Craig Roberts again.
Authorities in the United States are concerned that the so-called guarantees issued by American banks against sovereign debt.
A so-called guarantee against sovereign debt is called a credit default swap. Again, I'm not sure why he didn't say that, or just because maybe he's trying to be too simplistic. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that, or trying to explain it simplistically. But that's a credit default swap. Maybe when people hear credit default swap, they spaz out. But he said the banks, and that's what I told you in my last show, is that like a bank like Bank of America is guaranteeing or okay, the reason that you need to why they even started the credit default swap is because there were investments that had that yielded higher returns than the typical buying a treasury bond in America, or buying a treasury bond or some sort of a very, very low, safe and solid AAA quote unquote investment, and pension funds are required. The fund managers are required to never invest in risky stuff because that's people's pension money, and they have very conservative models to make sure that that money doesn't go anywhere. Okay. However, so what they did was they wanted to expand that investment into that they wanted to take that pension money and invest it in, and they could lure people in to a riskier investment if they had a guarantee that the investment was safe, okay, or AAA. So how you do that? You take a very risky investment that pays a high yield. Let's say it pays 10%, okay, and then you buy a credit default swap, okay, which is somebody's ensuring that if that bond goes bust, you get your money back, okay. So that enticed or incentivized the pension fund people to put their money into those things. I'm like, we can't lose because even if it goes bust, I got it insured. Okay, but the problem was that the people who insure it don't have any collateral to insure those loans. But because of the legal, they were allowed. They were being told that you are illegally, you're insured, but in reality you're not. Which is not what. So the pension funds, in collusion with everybody else, the managers and the people who were managing these funds, were in collusion with each other to rob, because that's where all the money was. Okay, like the bank robber or whoever was that, Billy the Kid or something. He said, why do you rob banks? He said, because that's where the money is. Okay, why would you rob pension funds? Because that's where the money is. Like, that's where people's savings are. Okay, why would you rob? How do you rob the real estate market? It'd be creating fraudulent securities to rob the value of people's homes. Okay, that's another place where people have most of their savings. That's how it's going on. That's how it works. Let's start this one again.
Authorities in the United States are concerned that the so-called guarantees issued by American banks against sovereign debt would be called if there were defaults. And so the United States, of course, is lined up with the European bailout scheme, which extracts the resources out of the populations.
There you go. So, and the United States is down with it, with what they're doing, and because, first of all, because they're going to end up doing that here too, but also because they can't have the banks are running our so-called, whatever you want to call, government anyway, so they bought and paid for that government already. So they're all colluding together. Now, what are they all colluding for? Is to bring around a global governance, starting with the European and United States, bankrupting everybody. It's an obvious plan, and we should all understand that the only answer to this plan is going to be putting these people are acting in criminal nature and stealing and cheating, and they need to be brought to justice. And we need to revamp the system from there. But before we can even do that, we need to identify that there's fraud and criminality going on. Let's keep it going.
I wish we had done this in the United States, okay? I wish going back to 2008 and 2009, we had given more thought. Instead, we guaranteed all the deposits and all the debt. We didn't guarantee the stockholders, the shareholders, that's for sure. But I'm just saying, I like this template, Ben, and can it be used at other places in Europe and the U.S.?
I do like the template, Larry.
Right, so that's Kudlow telling me he loves the idea. He's like, yeah, we should have stolen everybody's we should have taken the bank money out of everybody's bank account in America instead of bailing out AIG or whatever they're going to say. And the guy from the CFO was like, yeah, I like this template too. So again, they're selling it to the United States idiots who watch CNBC and Larry Kudlow. I know he's a very likable guy. He's kind of a cool guy. Everybody's like, hey, good to see you, Larry. He's like, hey, buddy, how you doing? We've been buddies for a long time. Everybody's like, yeah, Larry's my buddy too, But I'm telling you, he is not going to give a fuck about you, okay? He is paid to tell you that he loves the idea of, stealing people's money out of their bank accounts, whether it's insured or not, okay? That's not the point. The point is that was not their money to steal. Okay, that's it. Okay, and they shouldn't have been gambling it in such a nature that they lost it all. And the people who invest or deposit their money in those banks are assuming that they are not stupid. Okay, but then they're like, sorry, I'm stupid and I lost all your money.
A senior Eurozone official said Cyprus would be the model for future bailouts.
Cyprus is going to be the model.
And they're building a model for a global bank holiday in which we will see savings just basically raped from every person that has money in the system in a supposedly safe place, including pensions, bank accounts, brokerage accounts. And that's the process which is underway. It's the setting of precedent to steal people's money.
Took that from a show that I did last year in 2012 with the Jamie Dimon show, the Mega Theft show, and where Warren Pollack said he's like, that's just setting up a model right now for that. And hello, and these guys are like, but you see how Kudlow spins it? He's like, but I like this model.
Now, if it goes through, of course, it tells people that their private property in banks may not be safe in any other country that has similar problems or bankers strong enough to claim their property.
Again, he said they're talking about precedents again, okay, and they're talking about precedents in these precedents to steal your money. That's basically what we're talking about here. Okay, it's a precedent, and Larry's like, I like this model.
I know there's a lot of hardship in Cyprus, and that's most regrettable. But this idea that
it's most regrettable.
Depositors, they're the ones who have to pay the freight, the uninsured depositors, along with the stock owners and the bondholders. In other words, it's a private sector bail-in. I like this model. What's your take?
No, the bottom line is the bank shouldn't be going bankrupt. Okay, no. If a bank does go bankrupt, then yes, there are people who will lose their money because that should not be a model because then the banks are going to be like, all right, let's just lose everybody's money and go back, and we'll just steal all their deposit money. No, that's not that's a moral hazard. Okay, that's what that's called. It's called a moral hazard. Okay, folks, and let's keep going. So Larry's like, I like that model though, of stealing people's money.
No longer are bankers going to collapse market and then ask for a bailout, tell you how it's systemic that they stay liquid and that you give away your financial future in order for them to do so, they're going to come right out and take your money.
There you go, and keep it going. That's not the only...
In the end, the decision was made this morning that accounts holding more than 100,000 euros will in fact have a portion expropriated. A total of 4.2 billion euros is going to be taken without any due process and used to prop up the banks which caused the crisis in the first place.
There you go.
If I were a Spanish bank depositor, or if I was an Italian bank depositor, I might be very worried indeed that a precedent has been set.
I might be worried too. I mean, well, that's even underestimating because the precedent's been clearly set. Okay, and they're and then now we have CNBC spin very likable Larry Kudlow spinning it like it, and I think, and the guy from the CFR like, yeah, I agree with you, Larry. It's a great idea. Stealing people's money is a great idea. Just in case, how about not gambling? It's like you do, okay? Because and maybe you'll have to you can't. Yeah, I mean, just how about not stealing it? Okay. I mean, that's not the answer, okay? Because like if you weren't kept alive, if you steal it, you should go to jail and then we should liquidate your bank, okay? You don't get to keep going and say, okay, bank bails out and we'll keep, and then I promise I won't do that anymore. Are you kidding me?
We are at the verge of a very widespread, colossal, I believe, theft of private accounts.
There you go. That's the guy talking about it. Jim Willey I'm predicting that for America. They're setting it up for it, that's for sure.
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
Any of you fucking pricks move! And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you!
Yeah, that's how robberies go. Yeah, first you get everybody scared and fearful, and then you steal their money. That's exactly what's going on here. That's how it works. Okay, right from Pulp Fiction and this is a robbery. I'll play that one for again. Just let's get some for emphasis. I'll play that again.
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
Any of you fucking pricks move! And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you!
And I'm going to go into that section of the show soon, shortly, about the how the police state is moving in right behind this. So when people do say I don't like what's going on, you get the smackdown.
Why can't the United States, just in our last remaining moments, why can't the United States at least look at this new model where uninsured depositors are as responsible as anybody? I mean, we've punished the shareholders and the stockholders. We now have to punish the bondholders. We have to punish the depositors. They have to think 2 and 3 times before they go into these things.
Right, so he's like, yeah, you go into depositing your money in a bank, That's, I mean, yeah, you could say like, well, you should have known better, or you should have known the law that they don't really, you don't really owe them, but or I mean, they don't really owe you, have to give you your money back, but the bottom line is people's assumption is that they didn't have to worry about those things, and now CNN, NBC is something like, not why don't we put them in jail for stealing people's money, but like, why don't we do this model, because it's a great model and people should know better than to get their money stolen in a bank.
So I think the offshore banking industry might be shaken up a little bit first, where there was a lot of offshore money put into these Cypriot banks, and I think the offshore depositors may begin to be more worried about the solvency of the banks. They might look beyond the supposed guarantees of a government and try to look at the balance sheets of the banks in which they're depositing their funds, look at the country into which they're depositing it, to try to make sure that they have a sounder institution.
Right. So Peter Schiff is he's playing the game that people, what they're trying to do is consolidate and these governments who are run by the central banks who collect the taxes, okay, are like, you know, they don't want anybody moving their money to an offshore tax shelter by any means. So, and they're going around the whole world trying to steal everybody's money out of these tax shelters. So this was just, and then again, you know, and you know why you don't hear people, well, how come people aren't speaking up? That's because, you know, their money was in it was in a tax shelter, okay? It was in a place where they weren't trying to claim that they had that money there. And same thing was happening in Switzerland, same thing's happening in Cayman Islands. They're going to steal all that money from all those people, and or you know what, or selectively steal it from the people they choose to steal it from. And they're going to be, and you're going to be like, and when they know that you are trying to quote unquote hide it there, that's going to be gone for sure, for shizzle manizzle. Okay, let's keep it going.
Problem is the transition. If you've got an existing bank that's too big to fail, how do you get from here to there? And so I'm with you completely that we want to stop taxpayer bailouts, but that transition, when you've already got overgrown banks, how do you turn it off right away?
Right, and too big to fail in this category. In that sense, he means is that like these banks owe way more than the deposits by far. Okay, in the Cypriot banks, frankly, I think they had less. They have less debt than they have. They have more total deposits than they have debt. But when it comes to countries like the United States and like and Italy, for that matter, they have more debt than they have deposits. Okay, in any given bank. So when that bank is too big to fail. In other words, because if that bank goes down and they steal everybody's deposit money, that will and they still won't have enough money to cover it all, and that will start a very civil unrest and chaos and all those other things that go with that. And I'm sure I missed a few things in that. Let's keep it going.
It's also, self-defeatist. When you have depositors flee a bank, or the thought that they would flee the bank, you have the confidence in that bank weaken. Once the confidence in the bank is weakened, the counterparties to that bank then pull their support out assets. Nobody wants to face a bank as a counterparty if they think that bank's primary funding source, which are depositors, are going to run.
Okay, counterparty, besides that's, like somebody who has a business and a checking account, and then the check is coming from, and I'm sending you my check to pay for whatever business I'm doing with you, which is always over $100,000 in a very, not always, but there's quite often could be larger amounts of $100,000 for sure. Who's going to want to take a check from a bank that's that people think like maybe you won't be able to cash it, okay? Or who's going to want to do a business with you if your banking arm is known to not pay out what even if you have a check from them, okay? They're going to be like, oh, you can. What are you supposed to tell them? Like, oh, I'm sorry, my bank stole my money, and they're going to say, okay, no, don't worry about it. So that creates a definite problem with confidence in the banking sector. Keep it going.
Depositors are guaranteed to run if you tell them I'm taking your money.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Self-defeat. Let me play that again because I interrupted it. But
it's also, self-defeatist. When you have depositors flee a bank, or the thought that they would flee the bank, you have the confidence in that bank weaken. Once the confidence in the bank is weakened, the counterparties to that bank then pull their support out assets. Nobody wants to face a bank as a counterparty if they think that bank's primary funding source, which are depositors, are going to run. Depositors are guaranteed to run if you tell them I'm taking your money.
Right, so it's a catch-22. It's self-defeating. Well said. Let's keep it going. Keep it moving.
But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. You know something? They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers, people who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street.
There you go, and they're coming after everybody's money for everything. Okay, and let's keep it going. They meaning the global banking cabal, and again, it's not that I'm picking on bankers specifically, but this is the reason that they're doing this is to bankrupt everybody and then bring everybody into it, and then move the next step, which will be a global financial governing body, or just they'll start with Europe, and they'll start with American or the American Northeast or Northern Hemisphere section, or whatever you want to call it.
And the way things are shaping up, counting on pensions or government support is beyond naive. This was theft, pure and simple, and most likely there's more to come.
There you go.
The mere thought of confiscating what should be sacrosanct liquid assets put in the bank is basically revealing to everybody exactly how far you're willing to go to fill a hole that probably can't be filled.
And he said should be sacrosanct because, but now they're telling you, well, and Peter Schiff will say, well, it's not, you shouldn't have thought it was sacrosanct. And a hole that he says probably can't be filled. I mean, couldn't be filled for if you. That's a square peg in a round hole forever. Okay, that's a titanium square peg trying to get into a titanium round hole. Okay, it's not going in there. I promise you.
Think about it. What is the purpose of a bank? A bank is a place where you put your money to keep it safe and to hopefully get it back with potentially return on it with interest. So if you put your money in a bank and someone confiscates any amount at any level, is the bank still a bank? The entire banking industry has now changed.
Right, and again, that's set up for them to tell you, sorry, I lost your pension money, because what do you think your pension keeps the money? Okay, they're not a bank. Okay, they're a fund manager, but that money is left in an account somewhere, or multiplicity of accounts somewhere, but it's in an account somewhere, and that's the money that isn't quote unquote covered by the FDIC or covered by the governments of certain countries, so again, that's another sham deception where they're going to try to tell you that, oh, we didn't let the little guys, so little guys are going to sit there oh, I have nothing to worry about. No, it's all, in this case, okay, I'm sorry, but it's all something to worry about, and the people who have a lot of money will probably come out of this better, because eventually they're going to be well, you're the one who's really fucked because you're the little guy. Okay, are you kidding me? Do you really think the little guy comes out of this better than the big guy? Okay.
Pension funds and insurance funds will take heavy losses. They were invested, many of them, in the big banks. And of course, as Greece knows only too well just across the water from here, no bailout comes for free. The international lenders will demand the $13 billion loan be paid back somehow in the form of austerity, in the form of public spending cuts that will impact heavily on jobs, on salaries, and on economic growth.
Shut up, slave!
Yeah, so he said pension funds and insurance funds. Insurance funds mean if you bought life insurance, they're gonna, those money they're saying that's the money that's being stolen. Okay, and again, but you said that. Well, there you go. That's the money that's being stolen. That's the money that's not insured, quote unquote, by the government of Cyprus or anybody. Okay, same thing here. Okay, those pension funds are not. That's where all the money is. Okay, it's not in people's personal bank accounts. It's in their 401ks. It's in their pension funds. It's in their insurance policies, their life insurance for their families. Okay, that's where the money is being stolen from. Okay, get it? Yeah. Okay, slave. Come on now.
Shut up, slave.
Sorry. Okay, keep it going.
What is going on, in my opinion, is that the European Union, the bureaucracy that comprises the EU, is using the crisis to subvert the independence of the individual sovereign states that make up the EU. So the real villain here is the EU bureaucracy in Brussels and the European Central Bank, which is in line with them, and they're making a power play to simply take over the budgets and the authoritative economic decisions of the individual countries.
Or steal the savings of the peoples of the individual countries. It's more like it.
The adjustment program will ensure financial stability, balanced growth and sound public finances with a sustainable public debt. I will highlight just a few key features of the agreement. The program will be based on ambitious measures in areas of fiscal consolidation, structural reforms and privatization.
Okay, that's the Dusselblum again. He's saying that that they want fiscal consolidation and privatization. Okay, that's going to be so. If you don't, so they're gonna give them a loan that they never pay back. He said ambitious goals in the loan. Okay, and then when they can't when the loans are defaulted on, then they're going to take your water and your electric. That's called that's what they're going to privatize. Okay, and any interesting tourist sites or whatever, the Parthenon in Greece or the Eiffel Tower or the Leaning Tower of Pisa, all those things are going to be privatized and they say, sorry, well, you guys got to pay back the money you owe, So they're probably taking that. We're privatizing it. Sustainable, and he said, and a sustainable debt, meaning like whatever we can get out of you and he said it's very ambitious. So which means it's more than we can get out of you. So you guys are gonna have to take it in the chin. That's how it works. Okay, sustainable public debt. Keep it going.
Allocate the burden between the Europeans on the one hand, the Cypriots on the other hand, within the Cypriots, between the taxpayers on the one hand and the uninsured depositors in those two banks on the other hand. Now in sum, because of that approach, combined with all the other components that have to do with fiscal consolidation, that have to do with privatizations.
That's Christine Lagarde, who's the chairman of the IMF, okay? And she's just like, and she tries to act like real smooth, and she's like, yeah, we're going to take your you're going to have austerity, you're going to have privatizations, you're going to have fiscal consolidation, and that's, that's how you're going to, and she never even says, like, we're going to ask you, not to say that anybody does, but, like, they never ask her. She's just like, yeah, we're taking this and this and this, and that's what if you don't like it, shut up, slave. That's all. Shut up, slave. That's it.
Shut up, slave.
Christine Lagarde gets the Shut Up Slave award for sure. Okay, for sure. Because that's all she just tells you. Like, you know what? Get down on your knees and fucking lick my boots.
And the numbers will have to be calculated to work out exactly what level of haircut will be necessary on the uninsured deposits to reach these numbers, to reach this capital ratio. So we can't put a number on that yet, but it will have to be worked out in the coming weeks.
Right, so they made a deal, and they still don't even know how much they're taking out of your bank account, which means more than you thought. Okay, they're like, yeah, we made a deal, but the questioners in this mock press conference are like, well, how much is going to be the haircut? They're like, well, I'm still calculating that. Right. That means it's going to be more than, first of all, more than the 6%, then more than the 10%, then more than the 40% that you've heard in the news, and I promise you it's going to be whatever we fucking feel like it, slave. Okay, you get that? Now, let's keep it going with let me I lost my place here. Let's keep it going.
Cyprus allegedly is going to take a levy, basically take money from deposit holders, and in exchange they're going to give them bonds backed by the revenue output of their gas mine.
Right, and that's another, one of these, just a hoaxy thing where they're going to be like, yeah, Cyprus has natural gas, but now I read today that they said Israel has a claim to that, and Turkey has a claim to that, he's going to say, and whatever it is, it's just, that's nonsense, okay? That's all it is just to distract you, so to get everybody thinking about because gas is always such a a geopolitical topic to talk about. Whatever. There's no evidence there's any gas. They're like, yeah, I got some gas under there. You can check it if you want.
The gas mine ownership is not necessarily theirs because Turkey is disputing ownership of it. Okay? Turkey versus Cyprus. Turkey has a standing military. Cyprus doesn't. Turkey has more geopolitical power versus Cyprus. Okay? It's a good chance that Cyprus is not in strong standing. Yet they're going to pledge revenues to these bonds. Add to that, let's assume that Cyprus does somehow outmuscle Turkey. These are gas mines that are not developed. There are no standing pipelines to Turkey or to Crete or to get to the rest of Europe. So it has to be built out. It has to be built by a country that's being bailed out, that is actually stealing from its own depositors to fund a bank bailout and a bailout from the ECP. So basically, what you're doing is you're pledging something you don't own that you can't afford to build out to justify taking money from people who trusted the banking system. What they've done is they've outright destroyed trust in the banking system. It's confidence that allows the banking system to run, because no bank standing in the world has the liquid assets to pay its depositors all at once, which is the definition of a bank run. So this is very interesting. Once the confidence is destroyed in Cyprus, where does it go next?
There you go, and that's but Larry Kudlow was like, yeah, this is a great model we have here, and what he's saying is absolutely true. And first of all, and there's even a question of whether there is any natural gas even on the long shot for Cyprus. Even if it certainly there's never been an ounce of natural gas pumped out of anywhere in Cyprus that Cyprus claims to have a claim to anyway. So. How could you take a loan and say or steal people's money out of their accounts and say, here's a little piece of paper that says I owe you for when I get my gas thing going. And that's, I don't even know if I'm not trying to discredit Reggie Middleton who said that, but I'm just saying that who knows, and I think he said that anyway. Who really knows? You're promising to give something to something you don't even have, or you might not even own. Okay. So yeah, no offense there, but it's I guess I kind of it's just that's just a distraction and a bunch of nonsense. Who even knows if it's true at all?
And so if you're sitting in Spain or in Italy, or if you're a U.S. company thinking of investing, are you really going to put over $100,000 into a transaction that has to go through a bank in Europe?
Right. I mean, yeah. If they can just tell you, oh, sorry, your bank went out of business and we stole the money, so your money, no. The answer would be no.
Friday, the Parliament here put some controls on certain capital maneuvers here, so the government can control capital. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Customs and Border Patrol agents are looking out for anybody with more than 10,000 euros leaving the country, and that they are allowed to confiscate anything above that.
Okay, and just keep that in mind. That they're telling you that there's police and law enforcement standing there trying to stop you from taking your own money. Okay, so that means if you're American, if this happened in America, you go to the bank and you take your money out, and then you try to leave America, and they're going to say no, you can't leave, or no, you can't take your money, and that's only 10,000 euros. What if you wanted to take cleaning your whole bank? What if you have 200 grand in the bank? You want to take it all out? They're going to say no, sorry, you can't, which is true. That's what's going to happen, and people don't want to believe it, but it's true. Keep it going.
Neil, you talked about limits. Customs and Border Patrol, according to folks from the Wall Street Journal, are looking for those leaving the country with more than 10,000 euros. They're searching bags. If they find more than 10,000 euros, they can keep or detain that amount of money that goes beyond the 10,000 euros.
Detain or keep? What do you mean keep? Like keep it for who? Themselves? Again, who knows? That sounds nonsensical, but either way, the fact that they're even telling you that is very disturbing. And then here's Dusselblum again telling you, he's like, yeah, well, capital controls are inevitable.
The question for President Dijsselbloem, putting into place restrictions to the free movement of capitals, it's a serious matter. We haven't seen
restrictions to the free movement of capital. That's me saying I wanted to put my money in my pocket or in my suitcase and go.
so far in 3 years of the euro crisis. Do you think it could have been necessary if the Eurogroup wouldn't have somehow put into question the state guarantee for the deposits under 100,000? Thank you.
No, I think in the present situation, present uncertainty, it was inevitable that last weekend some measures were taken in this respect. And whether more measures will be necessary is to be considered by the Cypriots in cooperation with the Troika, or at least after consulting with the Troika.
He's like, first he says, yeah, it's up to the Cypriots. He's like, but after consulting with the Troika, which means it's not up to the Cypriots, it's up to us. Again, just guard that, and he's saying, yeah, capital controls are inevitable, so you're not allowed to go any. So that's not your money then, okay? In other words, like you say, can I have my money now? Like, nope, you cannot. And can I go here? No, you got to stay right there, sit down, and shut up, and I'll and you'll get your money when I tell you you can get it, okay?
Shut up, slave.
There you go. And sorry to say, but that's where that's at for sure. Let me find myself again over here. And yeah, so he said so Dusselblum tells you, yeah, that's you're not. It's up to Cypriot people, but after we tell, but you have to tell us. We'll tell you what to do first, whatever that's. And again, that's nonsense, like talking around in circles.
France already had trouble, people trying to get money out of the bank, and they changed the rules in terms of how much you could get per withdrawal. They're already tightening the screws on depositors. How does the map in Europe look? Who's next after Cyprus? How does it all shake out? Your thoughts?
Well, Cyprus is a catalyst. This is something that I believe was going to happen anyway. The bank runs actually did happen. It's just that the depositors were prevented.
Right, they already had a bank run, but they told them you can't have your money in the close of bank. That's what happened there. And he's telling you, which I spoke to a friend of mine in France. He told me, he's like, he said he just came from Greece. He says it's not any better here, by the way. He's in Normandy now in France. This guy is saying, that they already had a bank run, but they couldn't, then they said, oh, sorry, none of you are getting your money. That's your bank, so fuck your bank run.
From taking but so much money out. The real bank run for the larger banks are going to be the counterparty runs. Cyprus brings it as a catalyst, and it makes it very difficult to guess the direction. I could definitely say it will happen. As to where it's going to happen first, it's hard to tell. My guess would be, and I can't say it now because I'm still working on a project, but I've found several banks outright guilty of fraud. Assets in Europe. Assets appear on the central bank's balance sheet. The same assets appear on 6 or 7 of these other banks' balance sheets.
All right, so yeah, he's saying he's aware of fraud. But there's going to be lots of excuses for why they stole your money. That'll be one of them.
They say, hey, it's all solved except for one thing, capital controls. What's going on in Cyprus?
Well, it's really a wake-up call for everybody that has a bank deposit. A lot of people put their money into these Cypriot banks, and they were really complacent about the risks that they were taking. When you are a depositor, you are in fact a creditor of a bank. You are lending your money to the bank. Now, in many cases, the deposits are protected by some kind of government deposit scheme, and so people figure there's no point in worrying about it. Although the deposits do have limits, and there are accounts that exceed those limits, but in many cases, everybody expects there to be some kind of government bailout, no matter what, that this depositor relationship is somehow sacrosanct. And that is part of the problem, because it leads to much riskier lending activity on the part of banks than would be the case if you didn't have this moral hazard.
Right, so that's what I said earlier, is that Peter Schiff's going to tell you kind of like that, well, maybe we should just tell depositors that your money's not safe, it's not sacrosanct, but then that defeats the whole idea of what do you need a bank for? Okay, isn't it really in general to keep your money safe? Let's keep it going.
President Barroso intends to create a commission task force for Cyprus in agreement with President Anastasiades. The task force for Cyprus will provide technical assistance to the Cypriot authorities.
Yeah, so he says task force, technical assistance to Cypriot authorities. Okay, so it sounds to me like he's saying that the Barroso, who's the head of the president of the EU, is going to give them some sort of EU law enforcement or something to protect to technical, give them technical assistance when the Cypriot people flip out because when they do open their banks, which is probably as I speak or ready to go. So let's see what happens with that. But anyway, this is all. So now we're moving into. So we're going to steal your money, and then we're going to move you into a police state. Okay, that's definitely the plan. And here we go.
And we have also established the fact, I think, that governments are concerned about the response of people, and in the United States, it looks like that they're acting far in advance of any signs among the population of any kind of resistance.
Sure.
So you're right. We now have no civil liberties. It's up to the president whether we have them or don't have them as individuals. Apparently, the Department of Homeland Security has shifted its attention away from so-called terrorism toward domestic extremists, which appears to be essentially those who disagree with the government. And we see the militarization of Homeland Security, of all the local and state police forces. We see constant invasions of privacy, all kinds of spying that's strictly against the Constitution, and it continues and it deepens. We also have these reports of the detainment centers or camps built around the country with congressional appropriations. So clearly they are acting to be in a position to control the population in the event that there's some sort of economic or social breakdown in the United States.
And they're obviously doing like they're taking serious actions to do that, so they're expecting it. Okay, it's not kind of like it might happen because they're expecting it to happen. That's why they're making all these ridiculous, crazy police state moves. It's all working in mesh together. It's all going down, and frankly, we're gonna have to. What's going to happen is it will happen, and all these horrible financial collapses are going to take place, but then it's going to be a matter of up to us to decide how we're going to handle it, how we're going to approach, what we're going to do about it. I'm going to play you another clip where a very smart guy will tell you that he thinks we should take the Iceland approach rather than the slave approach, and I'm going to agree with him on that. But let's keep it going.
Larry, to give you a sense of just how tense the situation is here, take a look at this video that we shot this afternoon at the Central Bank of Cyprus. As the employees leave, there are armed officers from a special police operations unit there to make sure that they are not attacked. There was a protest there today, and you can expect that there will be more, because one of the key elements of an agreement that this country signed with its lenders of last resort is that they shut down one of the largest banks in the country and dramatically downsize the other.
Right, so the lenders of last resort are the EU, ECB, and the stability the European Stability Mechanism. Same thing in the United States. The lender of last resort is the Fed. That's by definition. So they have their own. So they're not protecting the people. The people from them. They're protecting them from the people. Okay, because the people are not happy. Same thing as what's going on here. We have a very serious police state in being installed here, or has been installed here, and that's what this is all for sure, absolutely for sure.
The European Stability Mechanism.
Yes, you're living in a police state. Your government is evil.
Oh yeah, thanks, Woody.
The European Stability Mechanism. This organization is tyrannical government over the people of Europe. One of their articles says any member of that partakes in the European Stability Mechanism, a private bailout fund to bail out private banks, any nation that partakes in it, will irrevocably and upon request unconditionally pay any capital requirements made on them by the European Stability Mechanism. Now, originally it was set up as $700 billion.
Right. So you sign that, and they say whenever we tell you say you jump, you say how high. Okay.
But another article in the ESM's charter says that the Board of Governors can change that requirement at any time. The most important tenet of this ESM, the Board of Governors or any member or any person working on behalf of the European Stability Mechanism cannot be ever taken to court. Their assets cannot be taken back from the ESM to be given to the people, so they can rob, steal, blind the entire continent of Europe, and no ramifications can come to the people who are committing these acts of crime against the people of Europe. Jerome Dissenbloom.
Yeah, they want immunity from prosecution. That's nice. Kind of like the vaccine manufacturers. That's how they've got that written into their the law as well. That's because of corruption and outright bought and paid for government puppets.
The mainstream media, again, reports them as innocuous Dutch head of the European Union. But in reality, he is the president of the ESM, the Board of Governors of the ESM. This is global financial governance on the march. Cyprus, a lot of people talked about last week, not a big deal. It is a huge deal because it's not going to stop in Cyprus. And if you think for 1 second that it does not affect the economy in your world, being the United States, Canada, Mexico, you better wake up and realize the web of debt is global. If Europe goes down, when JP Morgan alone has more derivative exposure than the entire global GDP, understand this. If Europe goes down, the world goes down. If Europe is enslaved, if one country at a time, the entire world will be financially enslaved.
There you go.
Well, they'd have to overthrow the government and arrest them and indict them and put them in jail for participating in the fraud. Look, we know by now that all the countries in Europe that got into trouble as a result of Wall Street and the fraudulent instruments are imposing the cost of the adjustment on ordinary people, on poor people, on what remains of middle class, on students. In England they raised the tuition to bail out the bankers. In Greece they throw everybody out of work and cut all their social benefits to rescue the bankers. So these are not democratic outcomes. The West prides itself that it's the standard for the world, that it's a democracy. But nowhere do you see democratic outcomes. Not in Greece, not in Ireland, and not in the UK, not here. The outcomes are always to punish the innocent and reward the guilty.
Shut up, slave!
Exactly, and that's still what's going on, and we're going to keep it going from there. Again, it's just not, well, I hate to use the word fair, but it's just not fair what's going on, and there's a lot of criminality going on, and what they're trying to do is set up a police state so we can, so as to control people and control the resistance of the most people who are not going to be happy no matter where you're from.
Now, what about Italy? The economist at Commercial Bank suggests the pages of Handelsblatt that Italy should also take a 15% cut of deposits, and there are Italian depositors there.
Right, so Commerzbank, which I mentioned in my last show about a German bank that I feel like could be in jeopardy, but I still I don't know enough about that to be sure. But he said that Commerzbank is suggesting that Italians take a 15% cut from their bank deposits.
Should 5% appear too small? Be thankful I don't take it all. 'Cause I'm the tax man. Yeah, I'm the tax man.
Yep, 5% is too small. They're saying take 15, 20, 40, and then Dissenbloom will tell you, well, I have to calculate. I don't even know how much we're taking from them yet. Okay, yeah, but we made a deal. How can you make a deal if you don't even know how much you're taking? Because you know what? That means it's a deal no matter what, because we told you, because you're the stupid peasant, and we're the ECB, IMF troika. We're going to tell you what to do. You have no sovereignty any longer, slave.
There is a cost attached to this crisis. We have to pay it. We all decided to spread this cost 2/3 over the next generation and 1/3 on our generation.
He said we decided to spread the cost 2/3 over the next generation and 1 over ours. So we're sticking it to our kids, okay? And and he said, and he has a chutzpah to even say that on TV.
There is a cost attached to this crisis. We have to pay it. we all decided to spread this cost 2/3 over the next generation and 1/3 on our generation.
Yeah, so we're going to screw the kids. That's nice.
I feel very angry because when I grow up, there won't be places to work here. That's why I'm here today.
Our future is on the line from mistakes of other people.
We are poor. We don't even have money. We don't know if we can go to university. It's tragic.
Right, and those are staged interviews, but those are young people from Cyprus, and the fact is that they are, the guy just said, he's like, we're going to stick 2/3 of this problem to our kids, you know, and the kids are like, we're fucked already. We're Generation F'd, as they call it.
Cyprus has been pulled back from the brink, but a troubled country awaits the next generation.
Troubled country awaits the next generation. Here we go.
Clearly, governments are worried about the response of populations who are being enserfed and made to turn over their limited resources to rich bankers or to the elite.
Right, that's hence the police state.
Shut up, slave!
And then, so, you know, we're getting down to the backstretch of the show. It's a little bit longer than I would have liked, but it's still not too long, and, not because, but it's packed with information. That's why it's long, and so now I'm just going to give you my last, flurry of all the people talking about global financial governments, and that's exactly what, and if you put all this stuff together, like I'm trying to explain to you, you will notice that this is all about bankrupting nations, bankrupting the little guy, bankrupting the masses in general, and then forcing us into some twisted, garbage, Cheaterville banking cabal who just like, yeah, we're your boss, you're the slave, and just, you know, deal with it like these pompous and arrogant Christine Lagarde types, or some jerk off like Dusselblum or whoever they are, okay. And or Ben Bernanke in you know, or representing our wonderful country, or wonderful Federal Reserve, which is a criminal organization as well. Anyway, so they're and they know better than you, and then, you know, and it's your fault, and we're going to stick the population to these things, and we're going to move you into one world government. That's how it's going to go. Okay.
It was just a few years ago, Jean-Claude Trichet, former head of the European Central Bank, said, there is a need for global financial governance. I believe this was an announcement that global financial government is on the way. This is the agenda of the banking financial power elite.
And here's Jean-Claude Trichet telling you.
We need global governance, global financial governance, and we need it fast.
Right, there you go, Jean-Claude Trichet. He's like the head of it might be the ECB. I think he's the head of the ECB, but with the European Central Bank. But no, he's even bigger. He's like the Bernanke of Europe, and he's like, we need global financial governments.
By working together, the European Union and Russia can make a decisive contribution to global governance and regional conflict resolution, to global economic governance in the G8 and in the G20.
Global financial governance. That's Van Rompuy, who's the head of the EU.
Hey, what the hell are you doing in my house?
Your house? This is my house. My wife and I bought it from the bank.
But I still got another day to pay back the loan.
The bank said it wouldn't matter because you're a fat deadbeat loser.
That's what the bank thinks of you.
We need global governance, global financial governance, and we need it fast.
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang says that the international community should improve and innovate upon global economic governance. He made the statement on Saturday at the second Global Think Tank Summit.
The second Global Think Tank Summit was held in Beijing with the theme of Global Economic Governance, Common Responsibility.
Global economic governance. That's what this is all leading to.
Gentlemen, for a real highlight, not just the last plenary session, but a real highlight with some extremely distinguished guests, and a subject that really wraps up a great number of the themes that we've touched on this weekend, because huge hopes have been placed in the G20. It's sort of perhaps the the most concrete achievement of the crisis to date is this idea that we have to make room for the emerging powers, and we also need global governance because we are interconnected in ways we had not previously realized, and these two things have clearly come together in the tremendous ambitions people have for this forum, for the G20.
Yeah, so he's like, yeah, we just realized that we need global governance. We didn't realize that before, but now, so we need to do this fast because we realized it. And the other guy said fast, because everything, whenever you're robbing somebody, it has to be fast. You don't take your time.
I think that right now the question is, do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge?
Yeah, so that's CNBC again. He's like, yeah, are we all slaves to the central banks? And he's just warming you up, like conditioning you, and like saying, making again, he's just massaging the entrance hole. You know where I'm going with that.
And so if you're sitting in Spain or in Italy, or if you're a U.S. company thinking of investing, are you really going to put over $100,000 into a transaction that has to go through a bank in Europe?
Right, so or investing or just doing business with somebody in Europe, okay? They're going to be like, no, sorry, we took your money, you're over $100,000, in any transaction. That's what they're telling you. That's what the precedent has been set for. Would you put money in a European bank, a European bank, that if you knew they could steal it? Probably. I mean, that's going to again. But they want to collapse the banks because they want to bring in a new global or a all-encompassing banking system. So that's why we're leading towards. That's why they're saying. You say, well, why would anybody want to go lose their money or go out of business? But because this is all by design.
I think the template's been set up, and now we can try to take this to the next step. And the next step is fiscal unity in Europe, which is needed, right?
Fiscal unity, which is a global or a fiscal union or a European fiscal union, which is needed. Again, needed. Okay, and we're getting down to the back stretch of this show. Here's a good breakdown of how. And I left this for the end of the show. Here we go.
One way or another, this system is coming down. But why? Is it because industries aren't producing enough? Is it because we've run out of natural resources? Have we run out of things that need to be done? No, of course not. The system is coming down because modern money is based on debt. This whole paradigm of having money be created by the issuance of government bonds and by private banks making loans for money that they don't have on their accounts guaranteed this situation from the very beginning. The problem isn't government spending levels in Greece or low taxes in Cyprus. The problem is fractional reserve banking. Fractional reserve banking is a fancy word to describe the policy of allowing banks to loan out 9 times what they have in their deposits. When I say 9 times, this is for the United States. In many countries, the reserve requirements are much lower, or even non-existent. Now let's put this into perspective. Banks loan out money that they don't have, and they charge interest. If the person who took out the loan loses their job and misses a payment, the banks take the asset attached to that loan. And if somehow these banks are able to get themselves into trouble even with this insane financial advantage, the citizens are forced to bail them out. But wait, there's more. They're already getting ready for the next Ponzi scheme. This time, they want to sell the world a truly global currency. And who will control it? Well, of course, it's going to be the same people who caused the current crisis. See, the problem is, we didn't give them enough power. That's why they screwed everything up. Of course, when this all goes down, the politicians and the mainstream media are going to pretend that no one saw this coming. They're going to pretend that this just came out of nowhere. And they're counting on you to buy that. And they're counting on you being too confused to resist when they present you with this new currency. If you think it's bad now with private banks controlling the money supply, just imagine what will happen when the central bank which issues that currency isn't even on the same continent as you. This is what the banking cartels want. If they get their way, they will have every nation in the world on a single leash. They will have total control. This will not be democratic, there will be no accountability, and the citizens will have no recourse. In short, it will be a financial dictatorship. And over time, that will naturally translate into a dictatorship on every other level. That is, if the people go along with it. When this system comes down, we're going to have a choice. Either we break with this current monetary paradigm, or we go deeper into slavery. Some would say we don't have a chance in turning this around, but the reality is, it's the bankers who are going out on a limb here. This scheme has almost no chance of succeeding in the long run. Collapsing Eurozone should be taken as a hint in that regard. Over and over throughout history, madmen have attempted to take control of the world through military and financial moves. But in the end, they always fail, and it usually doesn't end well for them when the people finally rise up. The problem is that the people keep rising up only to replace the system with something virtually identical. That's why right now people need to be educating themselves and others on the true nature of money. It's only by reaching a critical mass of awareness that we will have any chance of finding a real alternative.
Well said, and there's loads more to that, well said, and that's breaking it down for you. That you see, fractional reserve banking. I don't want to get too far into this because it's the end of the show, when you're allowing these banks to not only create the debts out of thin air anyway, because they don't have the collateral, quote unquote, to like he said if you get a mortgage, your house is a collateral. If you get a car loan, your car is a collateral. If you get a sovereign bond loan, that's even more, a little bit, there's a twist to that, because that means that your people are the collateral, which means that that's where there's all these austerity programs and all that other nonsense comes in, even though these people are speculating in the bond markets that have nothing to do with the people. People are victims of that. That's how these bankers contrive this scheme to bankrupt everybody, is by using these the sovereign bond market, which really doesn't make any real sense, because it's just a way to stick the little guy, the people or the populations with the bill, while they steal, and a way to steal people's pension money and whatnot. That's the end of the show. That's my show on Cyprus. Thanks for tuning into the Max Ratt Deconstruction Zone. I'm Max Ratt, live from New York City, and I'm over and out. Thanks for coming aboard.
And I think people need to, look at this and learn a lesson.
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery! Any of you fucking pricks move! And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you!
And now, Channel 1200 leaves the air until tomorrow morning. Our leader wishes you all a pleasant good night.